My salary when I started was about 80 to 85k. That was the base. Then they had like RSUs on top of that, which was another, I think, to be honest, it was almost 7-8 of us that were living in a 2-bedroom apartment. Working in a cafe is not simple. Like you sweat, you get tired. You have to go early shifts, like late shifts, things like that. So yeah, it was never 20 hours.
At least 100,000 should be saved, and if you have a frugal life, then you can go up to a saving of $200,000.
San Jose State is a relatively cheaper university. It's a state university, so the fees are lower.
Do you have like a number in your mind that you want to make in the next 5 years? Do tech salaries really justify the high cost of living in the Bay Area? Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Your Buddy Nakul. If you are planning to live in the Bay Area, one of the biggest concerns can be money. Bay Area has one of the highest cost of living, and that can be extremely overwhelming. But today, we have someone with us who has seen this all, from being a student at San Jose State University to being a working professional in the Bay Area. He has seen it all. He is going to break it down to us about the cost of living in the Bay Area, about the salaries and his expenses while he was a student as well as a working professional. I promise this podcast is going to be insightful, practical, and full of financial wisdom because we are in conversation with Tejas Shetty. Hi Tejas, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Let's start by talking what was your financial situation as a student while you were doing your masters in the Bay Area.
I come from a very middle class family from India, so I had taken a student loan. But thankfully my dad had agreed to at least fund or give me the monthly expenses that was required. So that part was covered by my dad. But yeah, the entire loan for the student loan was done for that.
Got it. So as you mentioned about the expenses, it would really be helpful for the students who want to come here, especially in the Bay Area because SJSU is a very popular university. Can you just tell about the expenses, let's say monthly, your rent, your food, your utilities, and any other expenses you have?
To be honest, like you can get a cheaper rental apartment if you live far off, but usually students don't do that because everyone has they prefer living close by because all our classes used to be in the evening. So we used to share with a bunch of people, and even then our rent was about $400 per person. And then I would say another $300 to $400 would be like grocery, utilities, everything else, right? Like all the discretionary spending that you had to do.
Okay, so can we say around $800 to $1,000 per month?
Yeah, I think in today's numbers, maybe 1,000 is a better way because I did my master's a while back. So yeah, at that point it was around 800. Now I think it would be about $1,000, I think.
Okay, and so when you talk about rent, especially because I think that's the biggest chunk of the expense, did you share your bedroom with someone? Because in the Bay Area, I have heard it's common to share the bedroom with other people.
Yeah, like to be honest, it was almost 7-8 of us that were living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and that was the reality of it, right? Like we didn't have a choice. Even after doing that, you were spending for $400. So yeah, like if you come from a wealthy family, yes, there were people who didn't do that, but for I think a majority chunk had to end up doing that.
So you said that you had taken a loan. And you come from a middle class family. So did you do any part-time job or like on-campus job to make sure that you are good with your monthly expenses?
Yeah, so I did land a job in a cafe where it was a 20-hour job, it did definitely cover for my expenses because the hourly pay was decent enough. But I would say in hindsight, I think I should have utilized that time to study. So again, right, it depends on your financial background. Like if you are in a situation where it's really tight for you, maybe go for it. But otherwise, I would say like it doesn't really make that much of a difference because those 20 hours would have been really beneficial if I had focused on my studies. So I guess it's like person to person it changes.
Right. I mean, you are not the first person who said this. And so it's important to again highlight because a lot of people I spoke to now say the same thing, that they did work on campus, but in hindsight, they feel that those hours, if they would have put those hours in their own development or let's say studies or whatever, that amount you earn while you're studying is very less as compared to the amount of hours you had to spend. And of course, like I've seen my friends do the job. It's also tiring, right? Like especially in the cafes and all, you work so hard. So it's not just 20 hours. It's more than that, which could be spent on your personal development.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like you said, like rightly said, like working in a cafe is not simple. Like there is, you sweat, you get tired, you have to go early shifts, like late shifts, things like that. So yeah, it used to take, it was never 20 hours. There were additional 3-4 hours which I had to go and take a nap, right? So you have wasted a lot of time. So yeah, I definitely agree. It's not worth the money.
Let's move forward to from your student life to your life when you started earning. So first, tell me which company you started working for, which city or like which state, and what was like your salary at that time.
So I started working for Intel, and this was in Arizona. The city was Chandler. So Intel has a big campus over there, and usually most of my friends, there are apartments really close to the Intel campus, so I could literally walk. That was a very big benefit. Like I didn't have to spend anything on a car or any public transport as such. And the situation, the way it changed is that yes, it was a huge upgrade, I would say, from going from living with 8 people in a 2-bedroom apartment to going down to like 2 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, because the rents were pretty low. I think we paid like $600, $500-$600 per person, and I had my own room, which was a huge upgrade in my life, I would say.
And like, what was the most like the salary at that time?
Oh yeah, my salary when I started was about 80 to 85K. That was the base. Then they had like RSUs on top of that, which was another, I think, 5 to 10K, and we had a yearly bonus, which I don't recall the percentage of that, but yeah, I think maybe around 10%, I guess.
Okay, so around 100,000 at that time in Arizona.
Correct.
And so let's say if a student gets the same job in Bay Area, what would be the salary?
I believe it should be about 20% higher. That's the geographical change that happens when you work in a tier 2 sort of a city versus like in a high cost living area like Bay Area.
Let's talk about your lifestyle changes when you started earning. So how much were you saving every month when you started working?
I had my loan, like I said, right? Like I had to pay off my loan, which took about 1.5 years. So I think almost all the money that I was making, I would just try and pay off the loan as soon as I could. So that was the main focus. So initially I wasn't saving anything.
But like that's a good data point. So you're saying that you finished up your loan in 1.5 years. So is that a standard time most of the students would take?
I believe so. So like I need to provide some context, right? Like San Jose State is a relatively cheaper university. It's a state university, so the fees are lower. So maybe someone who's in the private university and they have taken an entire loan, maybe for them it would be another 6 to 8 months more. But yeah, like someone like me who worked in, like who studied in a state university, yes, for me it was easier to do it sooner because my fees was lower.
Right. And like, was there any bonus, like the joining bonus? Because that's one thing. I also got a joining bonus when I joined Salesforce, but and that really helps to pay off your loan quickly because it's a lot of times it's around 15, 20K or like 25K. So was there something like that when you joined Intel?
Yes, definitely. And that was the first payment that I did. And like, yeah, I just moved, I bought some gift for my parents, but then yeah, like everything rest went towards the loan. So that definitely helped. I think even I had a joining bonus of like 10K or 8K, something like that.
And how did your lifestyle change after you started earning?
Yeah, like I said, like I think the biggest change was I had a room to myself. I had a closet to myself. I wasn't living from my bag when I used to live as a student. And I think the other was like I could start eating outside, right? Like I could go for happy hours. I could go out with my friends. We could take road trips. I think that was a big change. Like initially as a student, we didn't really go far off, but yeah, like once you start earning, yeah, we could like from Arizona, I could drive to like LA or San Diego and we used to do trips like that. And even within Arizona. So yeah, I think that was a big change.
Let's say you finished your loan in 1.5 years, but then comes a period where I'm sure you must have started thinking about investment, savings, or like some other financial important decisions. So how did you get to that stage? Like, did someone help you? Did you went out to seek help or you just read yourself? Like, how did that journey started?
I was blessed in that way that I had friends who were older than me also at Intel, like in my team and also the people I played after work. So some of them were there to guide in that sense. And then I think self-learning, like seeing some videos on YouTube or like reading some book, that was the way. And yeah, I think I just started targeting that, okay, I need to start saving. Like, I think the rule is like, okay, people say that you should save at least 10%, 15%. But if you realistically think about it, the amount of money you're making and if you can live a little frugally, I think you can easily save more than north of 20 to 30%. Like once you have paid off your loan, I think then it was easier to save more than 20 to 30%.
So to get a rough estimate, let's say if some person is making around 100K, then would you say like that person should be able to save around $25,000 to $30,000 per year?
No, I'm talking after tax.
Okay, after tax.
Yeah, it's after tax. It's not on the gross pay, but the net income.
Let's say the net would be here around like 75, 80,000,
Right.
and then you're saying around 25 to 30% on that. So should be able to save around $25,000 per year.
Yeah, I would say about $20,000. Yeah, that was achievable. Like you're saving. Yeah, I think that is doable.
So the question I have is, what is a usual salary in the Bay Area for a couple? Because you are married right now, so you can tell for a couple or for an individual as well. That's fine too.
Hugely depends on the years of experience you have, right? When you're starting out, I think maybe north of 300K, and that I'm saying for like normal companies, but if you're working for FANG, maybe that can go even above 400K when you're starting off.
So just to clear, 400K you're talking about for a couple? Okay.
Yeah. But then this can range, like once you start gaining experience, this can go as high as like 500K, 600K. It can easily go above that, right? Like I'm saying, starting it would be about 300 to 400. But yeah, once you have like, let's say it's 8 years to 10 years of experience, it can easily go above 600K as well.
Is it that a lot of money? Like let's talk about the expenses you have in the Bay Area so we can have a better understanding of what exactly, let's say, that 500,000 even mean, right? So can you tell me about your monthly expenses?
Sure. So I think what happens is that the more experience you gain and the more time you live, you start adding cost on your livelihood as well, right? You start making expensive trips, you start spending on buying a house and things like that. So you keep upgrading your life, and along the way, what I have always tried to do is that I still try to aim that, okay, I need to save at least 30%. That's my baseline. And most years I go way above that. Like I'm somewhere between 40 to 50% is what I think, based off the rough numbers I have in my mind. So I think it gets easier to do that, right? Like I was saying, when you're straight out of college, even 30% is a stretch. You're really pushing hard. But then once you start making this much money, I think it gets easier to save like 40 to 50% of your net income.
Okay, so if we talk about numbers, how much would you say that you spend in a month? Like, is it around 5,000, 7,000? Like how much as a couple?
As a couple, I would say about 7 to 8K if you're living on a rental property, right? Because the rents over here are usually anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, depending on whether you're taking a 1-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom apartment. So depending on what you choose, and then an additional on top of that, like $3,000 to $4,000 on like your daily expenses, travel and stuff like that.
Right. So if we say, like, let's say the combined salary is $500,000 after tax, I think it would be around 30% tax or 40% tax.
Almost 35, I would say, right? Yeah.
Right. So it would come down to around $300,000, and then you said that the goal right now is to save at least 30% of that, right. So around $90,000, and I think that perfectly fits well, because you said monthly expense would be around 7,000, which takes around to $84,000 to $90,000 right. per year. Mm-hmm. Let's say it is $100,000. So from 300 we reduce that, which comes down to $200,000. Yeah. So at least 100,000 should be saved. Mm-hmm. And if you have a frugal life, if you don't spend a lot, then you can go up to a saving of $200,000.
It really depends on your lifestyle, right? If you don't have additional expenses, like usually what happens is, like when you start making this amount of money, people end up having 2 cars, because both of us are working in different industries. We take our cars to our work. So things add up, but yeah, I think 100K for sure. Like I think that's easily doable.
If you had to go back and give one advice to your younger self, what advice would it be in terms of financial advice?
I think not buying a new car. It's a very personal choice. At that point, I thought that, okay, how can I buy a second-hand car? Like you come with that mentality, right? That you need a fresh looking car and everything. But if you think about it financially, right, when you drive that car out of the door, it depreciates like anything. So it doesn't make financial sense, especially when you're so young. And the second-hand market over here is really good. You get really good cars for a very good deal. So I think that too is something that I would want to change if I could.
Yeah, after hearing this, I am feeling guilty that did I made a mistake buying a Mercedes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
If you ask me, yes, but I'll leave it up to you.
What are some key takeaways in your financial journey so far?
The thing that I've tried to control the most is that every time when I had like an increment, or I switch jobs, I got a promotion, whatever. Like what I've been mindful of is that I don't unnecessarily upgrade my life where, like I would keep my living cost pretty much the same and I would focus on increasing my savings. So like I said, right, like when I started off, maybe it was 20 to 30%. Then with each increment, I would think of, okay, like let's try and push this 30 to 35 or 40. And that is how I went about it. Because it didn't really feel necessary to just unnecessarily spend on just upgrading like a car or getting more clothes or stuff like that, right? So I concentrated more on my savings.
Do you have like a number in your mind that you want to make in the next 5 years?
It would be good to have 10 million, but that isn't realistic. I think maybe a couple of million would be good, and that's the plan. Let's see how it goes.
So with that, let's move to the last section, which is the rapid fire. So would you rather save aggressively and retire early, or spend money and live a lavish life but retire later on?
I don't believe in either. I think there needs to be a balance, and that's what I try to pursue. Like I set goals for the next 5 years or 10 years and I work towards it, but then you need to live and enjoy the present, right? Like we're technically young, so to say, today. So I believe in living today.
Do you think that the Bay Area is worth high expensive cost? Yes or no?
I would say it depends on what things you like to do. Like Bay Area is a good option where there is good weather throughout the year, so to say. There's a lot of activity, outdoor activities that you can do from here. And you're close to cities around as well. So I think I prefer living here. And yes, then if you choose to have a certain way of life, then you have to pay the cost for it. And it's a fair deal, I believe.
What's one non-essential item you think that you refuse to cut from your budget?
I won't say refuse, but I don't think now I can change that habit. Like I think COVID made us so dependent on an app like DoorDash where you order food online and it's right at your door. I think it's been very hard to change that, and I think it's fine. It is good to enjoy sometimes.
Right. So what's that one thing that you hate spending money on but you have no choice?
Most of the things I spend on is something that I've really thought about it, and I think it's something that I like to do, and that is what I spend on. Like to give you an example, like my car is decently old, like it's almost 8 years old now, but I'm not upgrading it. And that's a choice, because I would hate it that I go ahead and upgrade a car just because I see my friends buying, or like everyone has a fancy new car, but I would hate that. So at this point, I think I'm trying to be as mindful as I can be.
And the final question. Do tech salaries really justify the high cost of living in the Bay Area?
I think this is an ongoing debate forever. If you ask me, I think it is justified. Like you are not only getting the benefits of living in a state where there is so much to do, even outside your work, the good climate, there are a lot of things, right? So you are paying the premium for that, and the companies are willing to pay for that. So I think it's justified.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast again. And I hope that you gained a lot of knowledge about numbers, how much you will be able to earn while you are working in the Bay Area, as well as some tier 2 or tier 3 cities, how much how your financial planning should be while you are a student. And don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And I'll see you in the next podcast. Thank you.